So the presentation today, the overview is going to be who is Bob Mayhew, which is me. What is the process? The online client presentations, and these are the online presentations that I do to the client. The first one is the initial presentation, which is an overview of how the process works, show them my design skills, if you will, and then also, as a dealer, you've sent me information that I'm able to use to give when we're meeting with the client, to give them some ideas, some design ideas of what I have in mind for his or her property. And then after the second meeting is after the client has approved to go ahead with the design, is the online proposal and presentation meeting. So the next thing is I'm going to talk about the services and the pricing, profitability, who are the target clients for this service, and what do you do if you have a potential client. So just to fill you in a little bit about me, I come from a corporate background. I used to do product design. I was a product manager, and I would design products, bring them to market, put the infrastructure together, and I was constantly working myself out of a job. So on my first job, on my last job, I was off for 2 months and looking in the backyard, and I'm thinking, oh my God, there's probably a good market for sprinkler systems. So I decided that day I was going to go into the sprinkler business. I registered a company name, bought equipment the next day, and the following week on the Monday I had my first job, and off I was to the races. And then at the end of my first season, one of my suppliers said to me, well, why don't you do landscape lighting? I said, landscape? I said, I don't know anything about landscape lighting. So he said, I'll help you with the first couple of jobs. So he did, and the more I did it, the more I liked it. And then, but I'll always remember the first presentation I made, and it was, this was like 28 years ago, and it was 10 fixtures, and it was $1,700, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what's this woman gonna think? And this is kind of what I envisioned in my mind was this, so, but that wasn't luckily that wasn't her reaction. She loved the idea, and from there I did many others, and then by the end of the next year I was doing, I completely got out of the sprinkler business, and all I was doing was landscape lighting. And I had a crew. I actually had 2 crews, and but it was funny because I always enjoyed doing the design and selling the jobs and doing the oversight, but I was never too crazy about having a bunch of trucks and employees and everything that went along with that. So, I've been mulling it over for years, and then finally one day, about 20 years later, I decided, okay, you know what, I'm just going to do the designs and do what I like to do, and I found my guys' jobs, and then I went out on my own, and this is where I met the coastal people at Coastal Source, and that is me to do the jobs that I wanted to do. So let's now look at the process. So how does it work? So you identify a prospect. Then what you do is you give me a call and we discuss it, and maybe you can send me some pictures, and if there's a landscape plan, send me that. We kind of mull it over. We put a strategy together, and then if you're very new at it and you're not that comfortable, I can call the client and set up the online meeting, or you can set it up. So then what we do is we meet online, and as I mentioned previously, we do that online presentation. And then if that all goes well, then we do the online proposal presentation, and then we move on to the implementation. So it's actually pretty straightforward how everything progresses. Now, let's look, the first thing we're going to do is let's look at the online meeting. So this is the first screen, how it starts off. There's the presentation overview, which was the 5 items, who's Bob Mayu, the photo gallery of completed project, so that people get to see what my work looks like, the concept ideas for their place, the sample proposal, and the process and client deliverables. So that's showing them exactly what they're getting and how everything works. So let's move on to the proposal, the online initial presentation. So this is how it goes. So again, I go through who I am, and I explain the relationship between myself and the dealer and how we work together and why I've come on. And so then from there, we move to the completed projects, where I show them some of the projects that I finished. That I did in the Hamptons about 5-6 years ago. This was a job in Houston, and I actually made this wall here disappear, as you'll see. This job was in Woodlands, Texas, and you'll see there's a substantial difference between the day and night, how much softer the property looks and how magnificent the pool and the trees look. This was a job I did in Katy, just outside of Houston. Actually, that house got flooded the year after, and the hurricane right after the construction. This is a property that I did in Fort Worth. Smaller property, an average sized backyard, if you will. And what I did is I created rooms by lighting things differently on this property. This is a property that I did in Dallas. And this was a project that I did in Oklahoma City. So part is this is where I discuss with the client some concept ideas. This house here was actually I looked at the lighting plans and had a very good idea of what the plantings were, and because the dealer had sent me pictures, I had a good idea of what we were dealing with. So because of the sheer size of the house and the footprint that it had on the property, the architecture of the house and the house itself played a major role in the landscape. So I really spent a fair bit of time preparing for this, looking how I thought I would like this house and how everything would fit together. So the first thing that I looked at was, and I'm explaining to the client, was to light these cross beams right here. And because it was a major part of the house, really the first thing that jumped out at you. And then at the back, there was the same thing on the house. And then there was a pavilion at the end of the pool that had the same thing. So the tying in these trusses was a way of tying in this whole property. And designs, I noticed that these were glass walls. So when you were here, you could see right through to the backyard and into the pavilion. So you'll see right here, it's great, the automation's working, is it was to light the trusses that I'm just pointing out right here, and that you were able to see from here right through to the back, and the trusses were going to be lit on both sides. So you were also going to see the front of these trusses, the back of this truss, and this truss, and it was going to have an amazing view. And then also because they were lit from both sides, then you were going to get this amazing view from inside the house. So so then the other thing I was looking at was, we had these trusses, was to create a backdrop to the trusses by highlighting the these peaks. And I believe I think there was 8 peaks on this house, and that was the idea, to show off the roof line and to create some depth, if you will. Then the back here, I'm just going to go back. Then the backyard area. So we were going to have this area right here, is to light the again, the trusses here and here and here, and then to light the patio area. And that was actually, because it was very contemporary, I didn't want to have any lights on the ground. So the idea was that I found a way to light it from on top of the house, and I was able to constrict the light. So this was just being lit. And then the idea is, this was a lot of hard surface. It was a very contemporary architecture. So the idea was to soften it up by lighting the gardens right here, the garden over here, then to light this garden over here and the water feature. There was a fireplace in this area right here. So the idea was to put LED lights under here to make it look like the fireplace was floating, and then downloading it from the tree. So I just want to kind of give you an idea of how I walk through this process with the client. So what we'll do is I'll just go through the other slides without making comments, because just for the interest of time, but it will show you slides, the things that we spoke about. This was to give an idea of what they were looking at, looking at their bedroom. I wanted to make that wall disappear. This is kind of the ideas for the garden. Now, here's a sample proposal of a project that I did. So we'll start off with, what I do is I start off with pictures, and this project here was kind of at the middle, same stage as this project that I was showing you. And the whole idea to show the client the pictures is, so when we're going to be looking at the design in a second, they're going to be able to relate to the drawing. If they didn't see pictures of the property, it's hard to look at it and say, okay, this is what. So this is how the proposal goes. So the first drawing is the color drawing. And in this case, the idea was to downlight these gardens, to uplight all these trees right here, to downlight the patio area from these tall trees. Actually, those lights were going up about 60 feet into the canopy to light this area. And the idea was to on the area, on this area, but make the grass area disappear, and then highlight the columns and some of the garden lighting around the perimeter of the patio. Now, this is the detail drawing, and you can see how much work and how many fixtures go into creating that that design. And here you see, now you're seeing more of exactly the wattage of the lamps, the fixtures. So there's a lot of work that goes into creating a design. And what I do is I create the ultimate design for every client. And the reason for that is so that the client can see everything that's possible. And knowing full well, and I explain, it's one of the first things that I explain to the client is, you know, I'm going to show you everything that's possible, the ultimate design, but I want you to know that there's maybe 1 or 2 clients every year that do the whole installation. So I want to take away that feeling of them going, oh my God, you know, he wants to sell me a huge job, and so that they understand that I'm there for them. And at the end of the day, and this is what I tell every client, it's all about you. It has nothing to do with me. So here's a proposal, and what I do is I break it down into a number of bite-sized pieces. And for this makes it easier to scale it down. And also the other thing is the client is apt to look at that final number. They'll concentrate more on what they represent versus looking at the price, and then they'll look at the final number. So because there's so many elements, and most of the drawings are fairly intricate, what I do is, if you notice here, there's numbers like number 30, number 28, and these relate to the element numbers on the quote. So when the client at the end of the presentation, and they're if they're sitting down with their spouse and they want to look at and get some ideas, it's easy for them to find and go, oh yeah, you know, we want to light that tree, that's number 30. So they go to number 30 on the quote. And you know what, we want to do the columns, so columns are number 50. So it really helps. It makes the process much easier for them. And then what I do is I show them the financial summary. And this, if for anything else, they don't spend a lot of time on it, but it's just a matter of they look at it and they go, okay, you know what, we know how you got to the price, and that removes that issue. Now they understand that it is what it is, and that the pricing makes sense and is fair and equitable. And then the last page of the financial summary is a summary of all the pricing of all the elements, and this is this is the retail pricing. So the final, so they've seen the design, they've seen the quote. Now I want to show the client what the final result looks like, so that they're able to identify, okay, I've looked at the quote, I want to, you know, this enables them to see what the job looks like when it's completed. And usually once we get to this point and they see the pictures, it's pretty much a done deal. They get pretty excited, and during this whole process, I'm reviewing the design ideas. There's a lot of back and forth between myself and the client. And he says, "Oh, I like this, and you know, we were thinking about that." And I go, "Yeah, oh, that's great, and we can do this." So it's the whole process is it's a two-way conversation. It's very interactive through the whole process. And the clients love it. They love the idea. And, you know, very often they don't have a lot of time. I've done some where the guys are really busy and say, Okay, you know what? This client's only going to have 20 minutes, so I pare it down to 20 minutes. Some other ones have an hour. Some push it to an hour and a half, and they're the ones that are doing it. So I can fit it. It can be fit to for any situation. Sometimes the wife's at home, the husband's at the office, the dealer's at his office. We all meet together. It's a fabulous process. So then I discussed what the process and the deliverables are, and uh, the initial client consultation meeting was free. The design for this property was $2,500, and that includes the color presentation drawing, the detailed lighting, fixture design, the element drawing, the wiring diagram, and the product cut sheets. Then I offer a service that is a separate service, and generally the clients get billed directly for that, but sometimes the dealer wants that to be included in his price. You know, I take the cues from you. If it means that I'm coming in as someone that works with you and not so much as the outside designer, whatever works best for you works for me. So, so the project, the online, I'm sorry, I've sort of got ahead of myself here. The project presentation includes the online design review, a second online meeting, and that's generally after, you know, we said, okay, you know, can you pare it down, and then that's when we meet again to review it. And then if there is a third meeting, generally we don't have to meet online. We've basically said, okay, we need to add this, we need to detract that. It's then it's just done with email. The changes are done and sent to the client, and then it's signed off, and the dealer goes and picks up his contract and his deposit check, because this contract is the dealer's contract. It's not my contract. It's your contract. So then the design oversight is something that's like I was mentioning before, is generally the client hires me to do it, but it can be done through the dealer as well. So basically it's a matter of setting up the base camp. I do all the creative oversight. So, you know, I'm back and forth to the job for this. If there's any changes in the design, which generally on a new property and the first landscape plans, it always changes by the time the final one gets done. And even then, once it's implemented, again, it's still different. There's still changes. So that the design oversight includes all these changes in design for the client. Then I'll, if there are some changes, I review them with the client or with the dealer, and the dealer presents it, or we present it together. And then I review prior to starting the project, I review everything with you, the dealer, and then the final part of it is I do the final fixture aiming, the lamping adjustment, review the overall quality of the installation. But that kind of goes as the job is being done. But definitely the final aiming and the lamping is done generally the last night or the last couple of nights of the project. So then the payment structure is, for my services, for the client, is the preliminary consultation was free. The design was $2,500, and these are the terms. The on-site sales presentation is part of the design fee and the design oversight, which we discussed. And then, because I don't know if I mentioned it, but I live in Romania. I met a friend introduced me to this beautiful woman 3 years ago, and I fell in love, and we got married, and here I am. So now I do a fair bit of commuting back and forth to North America. Makes my mom very happy because I see her now more now that I live in Europe than I did when I lived in Toronto, and my mom lives in Montreal. So anyways, so the travel expenses are based from Montreal and not from Bucharest. Then it's just the car rental, the lodging, and the meals. And what I try to do, if possible, is to combine that trip with other meetings so that we can share the airfare. But generally, the airfare from Montreal return to Texas it's not much. It's generally $500-600. So it's not a huge deal. So, and then at this point, I ask the client, do you have any more questions? And then generally they say, okay, it looks good. So that's the end of this presentation. But I want to point out that over 90% of the prospects agree to move forward with the design process after this presentation. So now what we're going to look at is, this is the start of the online design and proposal presentation. So, before, when I used to travel, I used to, go back and forth and walk the property. So what I'm doing here is I send you the proposal. You've already looked at it. You printed it up, and this is the color drawing for that initial meeting that you just you saw the first one. And here's the this is skipping over on me. This is the element, the detailed drawing, the wiring schematic. So now we're going to go to the design overview. And this is, I want to show the client how layered this is and how everything sort of fits together. See, so you start to see how layered it is and how much went into making this design, and how many pieces. And each one of those, each time something comes on, that's a different element. These are trees in the back. There's the tree trunks that are going to come on right next, and then the downlighting into the gardens. So this gives the client kind of an overview before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of how everything's going to look. So now what we do is we look at the front yard lighting concept ideas. So this is, now we're reviewing the final design. So on this one here, we have the peak lighting right here, and that's what this would look like. So that's this area right here. We have the sconces, not the cross beams right here, and that's this right here. And then, then the idea was to light the peak. So again, to create the depth. The idea was to light up this column, right? These columns right here. To light the wall with these walls here were going to be lit like this. This area here was going to be lit like this. The columns over here was going to be lit like this. So again, in the interest of time, but I walk through every one of the elements so that they understand exactly how things are going to go. So in the interest of time, again, we'll just breeze through this. So again, but this is the present for the actual presentation for that job. Now here's the backyard concept and images, same idea as the front. Street area, downlighting into the garden. So now again, I just do a recap. It's similar to what you just saw, and this is just to solidify everything that we went through in the client's mind. So we saw the detail, and now this allows him to sort of say, "Oh, okay, now I get it. Now I see how everything fits," and by doing it this way, they understand that the subtleties of the design and why things turn out the way that they do. At this point, they really can envision what they are, really start to envision what the things, and so now, because I'm not able to sit in the window and say, okay, well, this is what this looks like, what I do drawings that show the view. For example, when they're coming in the driveway, areas are all the things that they're going to see when they're going to that garage. When they're on the front steps, this is what they'll see. When they're last one, when they're in the dining room, this is the bedroom. This is the view that they would have from the outdoor kitchen. This is what they'll see from the pavilion in front of the television. From the view from inside the spa, from the seating area here. See, so even though I'm not there, this has been designed to walk them through and help them visualize exactly what it's going to look like. Then what we do is review the quotation, and so again, the same thing is it's showing as it's going through. It's showing elements and where is it showing on the drawing. But generally, like this one, I think we probably got to element 15, and the client really got it. And he says, okay, Bob, he says, what's the final number? And I said, it's 160. And he said, okay, can we, I got a budget, can we get it down to 130? And, I just kind of want to do the whole property, but can you bear down? No problems. So then we got back to him, and basically, once a client says to you, can you pare it down and do it to this, you've got the deal. It's like, great, thank you so much, and I'll make it work. So, and then, this was the element drawing, which he never had to look at because he just said, I got this much. And I'll tell you, this client was probably one of the best clients I ever worked with, one of the most amazing houses. And as a result, he was so gracious. The two interior designers were two different companies. They came to me during the build. We heard about you. We got projects. We can't wait to work with you. The architect came. He found me. He says, we have projects and we'd like to talk to you about possibly getting involved in the other projects that we're working on. So then, so that's the end of this proposal. And basically it was very successful. But there was a competitive bid. And I mean, this happens more than once. And they had the bid already before I was brought in. And so this was the initial design, which they were lighting the walls here, which when I talked to the client, I said, actually, this is what you want to make disappear. You want to concentrate on the landscape. So when you look at my drawing, you can see that there's much more emphasis on the landscape and the house. Here's a comparison of the two, one over the other. The green is the competitive bid, and the red is the LightFX design. So the competitive bid had 105 fixtures, most of them on the walls. The LightFX design had 250 fixtures, and so it was a difference of 125 fixtures, so it was more than double. And competitive bid, I estimated it at, and I think I was being generous, at $48,000. The LightFX contractor's bid came in at 138, and so a difference of $90,000. And you saw, that the original bid was $161,000. So we were already 3 times as much. And you know what? The client understood, because of the process, he understood the difference. And he knew that the other design, even though it was cheaper, was not going to do what it was. It wasn't going to do justice to the house or to the landscape. So who do you think got the job? Obviously. And so what I want to show you here is this is the dealer deliverable. So the first thing is the proposal, and the other one is the deliverable. So the first proposal is the one that goes to the client. So let's look at that one first. So a sample client proposal, there's the cover page, and then the table of contents, the quote like we saw in the other one, and this one had 56 elements to it. It was a fairly decent sized quote, and so it was $157,000. Again, the financial summary, which we went over before, and that's the summaries for that quote. The color design, and there's 2 sizes. There's one that fits inside the proposal, and then the other one was the architectural size drawings. Then there's the fixture detail drawing, the element drawing, and then the product cut sheets. So, when it's all bound, it's a very impressive looking document. And the clients really appreciate. They can tell, they can see the time and the care and the thought that's gone into putting this together and the whole process. Now, the dealer deliverables. The first thing is the cover page, and then this is the numbers, which shows you all your costs by category. So to the penny how much you're making, and then right here I'm showing the margins, the cost, your retail price, and the margin on your labor. Just to go through this quickly, the cost of the materials, the cost of the labor, so the total cost of the expenses, then the dealer markup, and then it comes to $137,000. On this project, the dealer wanted me to sell the project and also do the project oversight, so it was 3.5% of the dealer contract value to sell the project, and the project oversight is 4%. So, but what happens is this is on top of this. So it's not, this is not coming from your margin. This gets added to the contract value of the contract. So essentially, it's built into the price of your proposal. So all these services that I've just showed you cost you absolutely nothing. The next page here is shows the dealer labor hours. I'll tell you how much time it will take to assemble it, how much time to install it. Then we have the profit margins on the labor, material, and if there's any rental equipment. I'll show you exactly what your profit is per man hour. Then the cash flow, taking into consideration when things are paid, and showing you that it's in a positive cash flow all the way through the process. So all this is done with the client's money, and it's not taking any of your credit or any of your company money to implement this installation. Then drawings, which is the wiring drawing. This is a fixture drawings, the material takeoff, the fixture ID. So each fixture is numbered. This is the build sheet, and this is designed in such a way so it reduces the amount of time required to build the fixtures. I have a process that I put together that is highly efficient. Then now, and this I can send this to you. If you can send me an email, or your local Bell and McCall rep. If you ask them, they can forward your information to you as well. So what I've done is I've broken this down into various different types of projects. So if the standard project, kind of a more of a low-end project, a medium-sized project, and a premium project. The one that you saw was the premium. And then I sort of identify here, what is the target clients for these types of offers, if you will. Depending on, your requirements, you might be a company that's been doing lighting for a long time and you just need me to do the design, or, so this way, what I've done is, there's a client proposal, and so it shows you, depending on which option you take, what you get, what the prices are, the prices for revisions, if you do the sales service, there's no charge. So I've really, really broken it down, and to allow you to pick and choose what you need. And then the last page here are the other services. So if you're going, let's say, to meet an architect, and you would like me to come to the meeting with you online, I can put together a presentation that allows us to go, and we're going in together. You're meeting with the client, or you're meeting. We're doing the whole thing online, especially now with COVID. I'm here. You're at your office. Right now the architect's at home, or maybe it's 6 architects, and that allows me to. So I've already built that into the options that you can do too. So I've tried to make it as easy as possible so that I can help you, make you successful. When you become successful, I become successful. So now I sort of want to tie all this together now that you've seen everything. Now, the target markets for LightFX services are pretty much around this. Upscale homes under construction, though that is like the ideal client, because you're already in there, you know, you're probably doing the automation, you know, the lighting controls. So if it's in the early stages, that's where you get in and say, you know what, you need to talk to us, because we need to plan where the electrical is going to go for the transformers. We should probably bring our designer in so that we can look on how we're going to light the outside of the house. That's something that's always forgotten. And believe me, if the client says, okay, let's start on looking at the house, I can guarantee you that you're getting the landscape lighting. It's a done deal. So then let me go back, and then if it's professionally landscape property, they'll, you know, for sure, you know, they'll probably be interested or more interested if they have a landscape plan. Generally, I have to work from a plan. So, and then the homeowners that utilize landscape architects, interior designers, professional landscape maintenance providers, those are the people that are used to hiring designers, and they're looking for something special. So that's where the target market really is for the LightFX services. Now, the best source for new projects, again, you know, I can't emphasize this enough, is, you know, if you're doing a large project and you're already in there, but like you got a super good chance of picking it up. Then referrals from home builders, landscape architects, interior designers, home builders. If you can get established with them, and like I was mentioning to you earlier, I can help you with that. You know, that might only be one job a year. It could be 2 or 3 jobs a year. Maybe it's one big job a year, which is, you know, I'd say $100,000 or $150,000 a year. But that's every year. So that one contractor could be worth $1 million to you over a period of 10 years. So, you know, if you get 5 or 6 of them, that's $5 million. That's a lot of dough. And then your existing clients, obviously, is low lying fruit as well. Now, the benefits to the dealers of using my services: you have top professional designs, the closing rates, high closing rates. The projects are generally 2 to 3 times larger than they would normally be, just because of this process, and the clients get to see what's possible. And the clients generally spend twice as much as they budgeted for. I actually just finished a project here in Bucharest. It was a big project, and the landscape architect gave them a budget. I told them that it was going to cost them about 20,000 euros, which is about, I don't know, $22,000. Well, he ended up spending 160,000 euros to do the lighting. And he was absolutely enamored with it. So, but we went through this whole process that I just showed you. It's a very efficient use of your time, because I'm doing most of the heavy lifting. I'm doing the design for you. I'm doing the design oversight, selling the job for you. So it's a very efficient use of your time. On-site training of employees, generally they'll learn in one job what they would generally learn in a year or a year and a half doing it on their own. The project, I help with the project oversight, and like I mentioned before, there's little or no cost to you for my services. So the benefits for the client are it's an easy and enjoyable process. They love the process. They don't have to think about anything. They just, the whole thing is made very easy. It's very collaborative. They feel comfortable through the whole thing. It's a great, great, great process. It's highly professional, like you know what you just saw. You get more. They get more than the clients get more than they could ever dream of, and it's the perfect outcome every time. I mean, I've been doing this for 28 years. I've never in 28 years had a client that said, I don't like it. They, most of the time, they're speechless when they see it. And that reflects really well on you, and that can help launch you into way ahead of your competitors. There's immediate opportunities, and you know, James sort of hit on it a little bit. With COVID, everybody's at home, so it's probably easier to get hold of your clients right now. It's definitely easier to get in and talk to landscapers, designers, architects, because those people, first of all, are busy all the time. It's almost impossible to get an appointment with them. But right now, because they're working from home, it's a lot easier to do. I've done a few already where they're group meetings, and you know, everybody's working from home, and it's worked out very, very well. And this is where I can help you get through the door, is that little key that says international landscape lighting designer. That gets people's attention, and they go, oh, you know, when you say he's from Europe, people go, oh, not that it makes any difference, but in people's minds, it does make a difference. So this is another thing where I can sort of help you get in the door and help you grow your business. So I guess I hope you enjoyed what you see, and then if I can help you in any way, please feel free to contact me. This is my US number, and this is my email address. Remember that there's 8 hours difference. We're ahead by 8 hours. So the best time to contact me is before 10 in the morning, your time, or up to about noon. But anytime before 10 is like dream time for me. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I'll turn up my speaker now, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to.
Hey Bob, we got a couple questions. Hey Bob, can you hear me?
Yep.
There's a couple of questions on the chat line from a couple guys. If you open that, I know you've been busy probably focusing on your presentation.
Okay, let me just trying to see where the chat is.
Well, one of them is what software do you use for drawings?
I use Dynascape, but so what I can do is, if it's sent to me as a DWG or a CAD format, I can open it up and I can work from that, and I can export the same thing as I can export it to send it back as well in the CAD format.
And then there's a good question on maintenance. How much maintenance per year is required for a job with 160 to 200 lights, and you know, what lights require the greatest amount of maintenance?
Okay, so generally I would go in, I would go in once, maybe twice a year, but definitely once a year to clean all the lenses. You know, depending on where you live, there could be a lot of residue on there, so you go in with like a CLR and remove the lime on it. You know, do a little bit of cleanup. The ones that are the most maintenance are the well lights, because you have to take the grills off to clean them, but it's a very good source of ongoing revenue.
Yeah, I think as a dealer has a service program that they're trying to promote, this is a really good.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so guys, I'm really, if you guys have any more questions, you can throw it in the chat line, and then we'll probably wrap up here in a second. We're a little over time. But I was going to say, we'll send out, I have everybody's email address. So what I'll do is I'll send out Bob's contact information to everybody directly, and you guys can just do this. I have this recorded, so we can also send out a link so you can download the recording if you want to go back and watch any of this presentation to get more information. It's totally, I'll have that recording available. And then I think too, what we were looking at is if you guys want to get more in depth on certain aspects of things, to just reach out to Bob, or you could reach out to Bell McCoy, any of your account managers, and we can get you hooked up with Bob. And then you can go into anything more in depth, and also targeting the right homeowners. I think targeting existing clientele is probably a pretty good thing right now. People are at home, they're looking to upgrade their outdoor areas, so this might be a good time to get out and do some of that stuff. So we can send all of that out, and if there's not any more chat questions, we'll tell Bob thanks for his time and get on with the day. Okay. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. I appreciate it. Thanks, Bob, and we'll catch up with you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Thank you.